The year was 2028. The world was already caught in a storm of inflation, simmering wars, and relentless technology races. Political tensions were at an all-time high. But no one, absolutely no one, knew that in the coming months, humanity was about to witness a kind of division it had never seen before in all of history. This division wasn't over land, or religion, or even language. It was a currency divide. The world was cracking apart, transforming into two massive competing blocks, the dollar zone and the BRICS zone. And this time, the greatest weapon of the global powers wasn't a tank, a battleship, or a missile. It was a simple piece of paper, a banknote. For almost a century, the United States controlled the very heartbeat of the world. The power of the American dollar was absolute. Whether a country wanted to trade goods, borrow money for a massive infrastructure project, or buy the oil that fueled its economy, it simply couldn't move forward without the dollar. The dollar wasn't just power, it was a passport that only worked on America's terms. But then, something began to change. Quietly at first, then louder and louder, powerful voices started rising from around the globe. Their message was simple and defiant. We don't want to live under America's conditions anymore. This voice echoed in the halls of power in China, across the vast lands of Russia, in the wealthy Gulf countries, and throughout the rising economies of Africa. A spark had been lit, a spark that was about to turn into a fire that would reshape the entire world. Then, in early 2028, after a highly secretive meeting, the leaders of the BRICS, nations Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, along with their new allies, stood before the world. Their statement hit the global financial system like a tidal wave, shocking stock markets, banks, and governments. They announced, "We are launching our own joint currency, the BRICS Digital Unit, which will be a direct alternative to the dollar." This announcement was like dropping a financial atom bomb into a calm ocean. The ripple effects were immediate and devastating. Countries that had built their entire economies on the dollar trembled. The giants of Silicon Valley, the titans of the oil markets, the global banking institutions, they all panicked. A single question was on everyone's lips. If the world splits into two currencies, which direction will our economies go? BRICS didn't stop there. They declared that essential global commodities, oil, natural gas, rare earth metals, and even cutting-edge 5G and AI technology, would now be sold in their new digital currency. For the first time in generations, the United States felt its throne shake. The era of unchallenged American dominance was officially over. This was the beginning of a new Cold War. The first one had been a military and ideological struggle between the US and the Soviet Union. But this one was different. This was a war between the dollar and the BRICS currency. The world's most powerful governments were now scrambling, asking themselves, where do we belong? Where will our logistics, our trade, our entire banking system fit in this new world order? Every country, big or small, was forced to make a choice: the dollar zone or the BRICS zone. Their entire future depended on this single, monumental decision. And then, BRICS made a move that no one saw coming. They built their new digital currency on a revolutionary foundation of blockchain and artificial intelligence. And they linked it directly to the real-world global economy. It was fast, secure, and decentralized. Soon, nearly 40% of the world began connecting to this new system. Why? The reasons were compelling. Transaction fees were incredibly low. Payments were instant. And most importantly, it offered freedom from the long reach of American sanctions. Of course, the United States didn't just stand by and watch. It responded with its own powerful move, announcing the creation of the digital dollar, or the EU. Now, the battlefield was truly set. On one side, you had the old guard, the United States, Europe, and Japan, holding on to the dollar zone. On the other, the new challengers, the BRICS nations, the Gulf states, much of Africa, and parts of South Asia, all rallying behind the BRIC zone. It was as if someone had taken a giant knife and sliced the global map clean in half. This massive divide didn't just stay in the world of high finance and politics. It trickled down right into the daily lives of ordinary people. If you lived in the US, Europe, or the UK, your life continued much as it had before. Your big payments, your imports, your international transactions, all of it stayed firmly within the dollar zone. But if you lived in China, India, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Russia, or Brazil, your world was rapidly changing. Your financial life was shifting into the BRICS currency system. The global economy, once a seamless, interconnected web, was now locked behind a massive digital wall. It was a lot like how the internet works differently in China than it does in Europe. But now, currencies were doing the same thing. Then came the explosion that set the global media on fire. Saudi Arabia, the linchpin of the oil market for half a century, made a historic announcement. We will now sell our oil not only in dollars, but also in the BRICS currency. This was the biggest shock the dollar had ever faced. Since the 1970s, oil had been bought and sold exclusively in dollars. This was the very foundation of the dollar's global rule, the so-called petrodollar system. And for the first time ever, that foundation was not just challenged, it was cracked. Panic erupted on Wall Street. A wave of uncertainty swept across the stock markets in Asia and Europe. Around the world, people with savings and investments began to hedge their bets. They started splitting their wealth into two baskets, half in dollar-based assets, like US stocks and bonds, and the other half in the new BRICS digital unit. Banks, multinational corporations, and everyday investors all had the same urgent question burning in their minds. Which currency is going to dominate the future? And nobody, not the smartest analyst or the most experienced banker, had a clear answer. The world was holding its breath. The year 2028 taught us all a crucial lesson. Real power in the modern world isn't just about military might. It's about financial control. The new world was now walking on two separate economic roads. There was the dollar zone, powerful, established, experienced, but old. And then there was the BRICS zone, new, incredibly fast, and driven by cutting-edge technology. Which path will the world ultimately choose? Which currency will win this epic financial war? Or will humanity remain divided, living in two parallel economic universes forever? These questions are still open today. The future is unwritten. And perhaps, in the coming years, history itself will finally write the answer. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this look into our possible future interesting, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. We'll see you in the next one.